from like predicting demand for Valentine's Day cards to, planning major product launches. Like, how do businesses navigate big decisions with so much uncertainty? You've asked for a deep dive on Monte Carlo simulation, and it turns out this method used by like Fortune 500 companies is surprisingly relevant to like all of us.
Yeah.
We're unpacking chapter 69 of your data analysis book, so get ready to discover how a tool with roots in the development of the atom bomb can help you make smarter decisions, even if your spreadsheets are just, for fun.
What's fascinating is how Monte Carlo simulation connects those
Yeah.
seemingly disparate worlds, right?
Yeah.
During World War II, physicists grappling with the unpredictable nature of atomic reactions needed a way to simulate probabilities on a massive scale, and they drew inspiration from, of all things, the casinos of Monte Carlo, using the concept of randomness to model uncertainty.
So instead of rolling dice on a roulette table, we're using the power of computers to run thousands, even millions of simulations. That's incredible.
Exactly. And that's the core idea behind Monte Carlo simulation. We're essentially playing out different scenarios in a virtual space, each with its own set of random variables and probabilities.
That makes a lot of sense, but how does this translate to like real-world decision-making?
Think about a company like General Motors deciding which new car models to produce.
Okay.
They can't know for sure what consumer demand will look like, right?
Right.
But they can use Monte Carlo simulation to model different, economic conditions, production costs, and even like competitor behavior. Yeah. By running countless simulations, they get a much clearer picture of the potential outcomes and can make a more informed decision based on their risk tolerance and strategic goals.
So it's almost like having a crystal ball, but instead of magic, it's powered by data and algorithms.
Yeah, it's more powerful than a crystal ball because it doesn't just give you a single answer. It helps you understand the full range of possibilities, from the best case scenario to the worst case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And by quantifying those possibilities, it allows you to make decisions with a calculated level of confidence.
That's incredibly valuable, especially when you're dealing with complex decisions that have a lot riding on them.
Yeah.
But for those of us who aren't like data scientists, how accessible is Monte Carlo simulation?
You might be surprised to learn that a tool you probably already have on your computer can handle the basics. Microsoft Excel.
Excel.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. So instead of complex statistical software, we're talking about a program many of us use for like budgeting or tracking expenses.
Precisely. One of the fundamental elements of Monte Carlo simulation is generating random numbers. And Excel has a simple yet powerful function for that. Equals rand, open parenthesis, close parenthesis.
Okay.
Each time you use this function, it produces a random number between 0 and 1, which we can then use to simulate all sorts of real-world variables.
So by leveraging the randomness of equals rand, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, we're essentially mimicking the uncertainty of real-life situations within the structured environment of a spreadsheet. That's really clever.
It is. Let's imagine you're a greeting card company trying to decide how many Valentine's Day cards to print. You know from past years that demand can fluctuate. Some years, love is in the air and sales are through the roof. Other years, not so much.
And misjudging that demand can have a real impact on the bottom line, especially for something as time-sensitive as a holiday card.
Absolutely. This is where Monte Carlo simulation comes in. We can assign probabilities to different demand scenarios. Perhaps a 30% chance of selling 10,000 cards, a 50% chance of selling 20,000, and so on. Then, using the equals rand function in Excel, we can simulate thousands of potential outcomes for each production quantity we're considering.
That's fascinating. So we're essentially running a massive what-if analysis, testing out different production levels against the unpredictable nature of consumer demand.
Exactly. And here's where Excel's data visualization capabilities come into play.
Okay.
By running, say, 1,000 simulations for each production quantity, we can create histograms or scatter plots to visualize the distribution of potential profits.
So rather than just going with our gut feeling, we have a data-driven way to assess the risk and potential reward of different decisions. That's incredibly powerful. So instead of just looking at a spreadsheet like full of numbers, we're actually seeing the probabilities come to life, visually.
Yeah.
That makes it so much easier to like grasp the potential outcomes.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of a confidence interval becomes really useful, right?
Okay.
Let's say we've run our simulations and we see that producing 20,000 Valentine's Day cards seems to yield the highest average profit.
Right.
A 95% confidence interval would then tell us a range within which we can be 95% certain that the true average profit falls.
So it's like saying we're not guaranteeing this exact profit, but based on our simulations, we're highly confident it'll be within this range. That nuance is essential for, making informed decisions.
Absolutely. It allows us to quantify the uncertainty. We might find, for example, that a production level of 20,000 cards has a 95% confidence interval of $10,000 to $15,000 in profit. That gives us a much clearer understanding of the potential upside and downside compared to simply knowing the average profit.
It's like having guardrails on our decision-making process, helping us navigate the uncertainty with a bit more clarity.
Precisely. And the beauty of Monte Carlo simulation is that it's not limited to like just business decisions.
Yeah.
Let's say you're planning a big event, maybe a conference or even like a wedding.
And anyone who's ever planned a big event knows there are a million moving parts, and it's like impossible to predict everything perfectly.
Exactly. But you can use Monte Carlo simulation to model things like guest attendance, catering costs, even the weather. By simulating different scenarios, you can get a better handle on your budget, allocate resources more effectively, and even make contingency plans for those unexpected hiccups that, inevitably pop up.
So whether we're talking about launching a new product or planning a big event, Monte Carlo simulation allows us to approach these decisions with a data-driven mindset.
Yeah.
It's not about eliminating uncertainty altogether, but about understanding it, quantifying it, and using that knowledge to our advantage.
It's about making smarter decisions in a world where we can't predict the future with, 100% certainty.
This has been incredibly insightful. It feels like we're demystifying a tool that was once reserved for like mathematicians and data scientists, making it accessible and relevant to a much wider audience.
And that's the most exciting part. With tools like Excel, anyone can experiment with Monte Carlo simulation and start applying these concepts to their own, lives and work.
It's like you said earlier, it's not about having a crystal ball, but about having a framework for navigating uncertainty with a bit more confidence and a lot more data.
Exactly. And the more we embrace uncertainty and equip ourselves with the tools to navigate it, the better prepared we'll be to make those tough decisions, whether they're in the boardroom or in our everyday lives.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. Now, if only I could use Monte Carlo simulation to decide what to have for dinner tonight.
Well, I'm not sure it can help you choose between pizza and tacos.
Maybe not, but I'm starting to see the possibilities like everywhere.
And that's the point. Monte Carlo simulation is more than just a mathematical tool. It's a way of thinking, a lens through which we can view the world and make more informed choices, even when faced with the unknown.
So, to our listeners out there, the next time you're facing a decision that has you feeling a bit, you know, stuff, right? Thinking back to those physicists who pioneered this technique, it's amazing how their work on something as complex as, like, the atom bomb gave rise to a tool that can help us navigate everyday uncertainties.
It speaks to the interconnectedness of knowledge, wouldn't you say? And the fact that even in seemingly random events, there are often underlying patterns and probabilities we can, uncover.
Absolutely. It's like that saying, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. But with tools like Monte Carlo simulation, we're better equipped to approach those unknowns, wouldn't you say?
Precisely. It's not about having all the answers, but rather having a framework for asking the right questions.
Yeah.
Gathering relevant data, and then using that information to make the most informed decision possible.
So to our listeners out there, the next time you're facing a decision that has you feeling a bit, stuck, remember this deep dive. Whether you're a CEO weighing a multi-million-dollar investment or a student trying to choose a major, the principles of Monte Carlo simulation can be surprisingly relevant.
Yeah. Embrace the uncertainty. Don't be afraid to explore different scenarios, weigh the potential outcomes, and even challenge your own assumptions along the way.
It's about shifting our mindset from one of trying to predict the future with, absolute certainty to one of embracing the unknown and using data to make the most informed choices we can. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of Monte Carlo simulation.